My name is Hunter Johannick, and this is my informative speech on internment camps. I'm going to start this with a quotation. On April 20th, I celebrated my 5th birthday, and just a few weeks after my birthday, my parents got my younger brother, my baby sister, and me up very early one morning, and they dressed us quickly. My brother and I were in the living room looking out the front window, and we saw 2 soldiers marching up our driveway. They carried bayonets on their rifles. They stomped up the front porch and banged on the door. My father entered it, and the soldiers ordered us out of our home. My father gave me and my brother small luggages to carry, and we walked out and stood on the driveway waiting for our mother to come out. And when my mother finally came out, she had her baby sister on one arm, a huge duffel bag on the other, and tears were streaming down both her cheeks. I will never be able to forget that scene. It is burned into my memory. Today I'm going to inform you of a dark moment in our society and in Idaho. When I read the quote at the beginning of the speech, how many of you thought it was from Nazi Germany and the concentration camps? This quote is actually from a TED Talk by George Takei called Why I Love This Country That Once Betrayed Me. A lot of people are unaware of the fact that following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt signed an executive order that led to the evacuation and mass incarceration of 120,000 persons of Japanese ancestry living on the West Coast, most of whom were U.S. citizens. It's important to know this not just because of its historical value, but also to ensure that something like this never happens again. While I did not know of anybody personally who lived in one of these internment camps, I've always been interested in history. I was unaware of the existence of these camps until I learned about it in my U.S. history class, and I've looked at websites, videos, and books in preparation for this speech. Today I'm going to share with you what led to the creation of these camps, the day-to-day life inside the camps, what eventually caused these camps to be closed, and finally, what happened after these camps were closed and what was done to ensure that camps like this never happen again. What led to the camps? What led to the camps was the World War II and the bombing of Pearl Harbor. President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which was the mass incarceration of 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Roosevelt did this because he deemed that it was necessary not to have Japanese spies and living inside of the U.S. So he wanted to move all people of Japanese ancestry because he believed that was a good idea to get any spies that were there in the West Coast into camps so that we could watch them and make sure they weren't giving out secrets of the military. General John D. DeWitt, who was leader of the Western Defense Command, was the person who suggested the creation of military zones in Japanese attainment. His original plan actually included Italians and Germans, as stated by an article by History.com on Japanese internment camps. Most of the Japanese who were put in internment camps were U.S. citizens, and half of them were children. They were incarcerated for up to 4 years in remote camps surrounded by barbed wire and armed guards. President Roosevelt himself called these internment camps concentration camps. Life inside the camps was overcrowded, lacked of necessary facilities, and was dangerous. Housing described by War Location Authority, as noted on PBS's website, was tar-papered covered barracks of simple frame construction without plumbing or cooking facilities of any kind. The internment camps were only located in the western states, as they had the highest population of Japanese citizens. Daily life inside the camps was really bad, actually. There was diseases like typhoid, dysentery, and smallpox that spread very quickly throughout the small barracks that they lived in. As many as 25 people were forced to live in space built for 4. I have a picture of the internment camps. Japanese school. This is a family that we have a picture of. And an internment camp. It's a large family. They were mostly split up inside of them, with parents and children being separated. Education was provided for all school-age children, but was overcrowded with a ratio of 48 students to 1 teacher in elementary schools, as noted by the presentation. So here is a schoolhouse with all the students inside of it, and the school behind it. It's just a barracks. It's nothing very nice at all. Disruption of typical family roles and structure of Japanese families. So they split up the fathers of the families, which was really bad for the type of culture that Japanese lived in. It was definitely a patriarchy. So the man was at the head of the household and usually working for the family and bringing home money. But what happened is the mom of the family, or the woman, was the head of the family and had to take care of all the children as well as get them food. So joining the military escape camps. So a lot of young teenage men inside the camps were given an option to join the military as a ways to get out of the camps. At first, they were barred from joining the military due to being considered enemy aliens. But after a year, the U.S. military decided to let them join. The battalion that they were stationed in was the 100th Infantry Battalion, which was part of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. And I have a picture of the 442nd. It was an all-Japanese combat team that was only allowed to fight in Italy because they thought that Japanese are inherently disloyal, and if they were given the chance to fight against the Japanese, they would switch sides against us. So an interesting fact about the 442nd, it was the most highly decorated regiment in the history of the U.S. according to Kate Lang in the Department of Defense article called Japanese Americans Were Vital to the World War II war effort. So this regiment had 18,000 individual decorations for bravery, 9,500 Purple Hearts, 9 distinguished service crosses, and 21 medals of honor, which is the most medals given to any regiment during war in our history. Recognizing the selfless service of Japanese Americans and the legal nature of the camps, President Roosevelt's executive order was officially rescinded in 1944 in December, which began the closing of internment camps. Closing of the camps and after the camps. After rescinding the Executive Order 9066 in December 1944, there was a 6-month resettlement process by the War Relocation Authority. The redress movement of the 1960s and 70s and commissions on wartime relocation and internment on civilians. Internment camps were a national mistake as noted by the presentation. Prisoners at Home, Everyday Life in Japanese Internment Camps by the Digital Public Library of America. So the Civil Liberties Act of 1988 was a reparation to all Japanese Americans that were forced to go into these camps. It was in 1988, and it was given to $20,000 to each surviving internee. So it wasn't given to the families of internees. So if like a grandparent went and that grandparent passed away, then the family that family wouldn't get the money. It was only given to people who were inside the camps. And it was actually it was given out 50 years after the camps closed. So it was quite a long time. So remembering internment camps, historical landmarks at each of the detention sites, and 10 internment camps spread across the western United States. One of those internment camps was Minidoka Internment Camp, which was made in 1943, and that is in southeast Idaho. And I have a picture of it, so you can go and look at that too. It's quite sad to see that we had one in Idaho as well. In conclusion, today I informed you of a dark moment of our society in Idaho by sharing the history of the creation of Japanese internment camps throughout the western United States, what led to these camps, what life was like for the prisoners inside these camps, the closing of these camps, and what was done and continues to be done to ensure something like this never happens again. My closing with impact is the lessons learned from these mistakes of World War II and the experience of Japanese American internees should serve as a reminder of the danger of allowing national security to overrule civil liberty. And a memorable line, which is a quote from Kiyosada, an attorney, "We have no one to go to for help, not even a church. Anything goes. Now that our President Roosevelt signed the order to get rid of us, how can he do this to his own citizens? No lawyer has the courage to defend us. Caucasian friends stay away for fear of being labeled Jap lovers. There is not a more lonely feeling than being banished by my own country. There's no place to go."